pier smelled like salt and diesel and wet rope. It was a little after 7 in the morning. The tide was low. A gray destroyer sat alongside, 400 and some feet of steel, lines doubled up, a work party moving on the pier beside her. I walked up with a garment bag over my shoulder. I had flown in the night before. I had not slept much. I had come straight to the ship instead of waiting because I wanted to see her before she saw me. There is a difference between a crew that knows the captain is watching and a crew that thinks no one is. I wanted the second one, just for an hour. So I came in civilian clothes, jeans, a plain jacket, sneakers. Nothing that said anything. I looked like anybody. A petty officer stepped into my path. He had a clipboard and a reflective belt and the particular impatience of a man running a work party that is behind schedule. Second class, young, sure of himself in the way that a little authority makes a person sure. He looked at me for about a second and a half, then he decided what I was. "Only here for the paycheck, honey," he said. "Real work is over here. Family services is back the way you came." 2 of his sailors smirked. I did not say anything. I set the garment bag down against a bollard, out of the way of the work party, and I stood there. I have been called a lot of things on a lot of piers. Paycheck was one of the first. It was also once true, so it did not land the way he wanted it to. It landed somewhere old. "Some of us actually serve," he said when I did not move. He turned his back. "Move along, you are in the way, clear my brow." His name tape said, Muncie. I looked at him for a moment. Not long, long enough. He was maybe 27, clean shave, sharp uniform. He kept his people moving and he kept one eye on the clock, which told me he cared about the evolution finishing on time, which told me he was not lazy. A lazy man does not run a tight work party. He runs a slow one and blames the gear. So he was not lazy. He was something else. He was quick and he was sure, and he had learned somewhere that the way to look like a leader is to have an answer before you have a question. He had looked at me for a second and a half and produced an answer. Paycheck, family services, move along, no question anywhere in it. I have met 100 Muncies. I was for about a year a small one myself. The cure is not cruelty back. The cure is time, and a chief who will not let you stay that way. And one morning, where the ground opens under your certainty, and you get to decide what kind of man to be when it does. His morning was coming. He just did not know it yet. Behind him, the work party moved. Hoses, pallets, a chief's voice, somewhere calling a number. The ordinary music of a ship taking on what it needs. I stood at the edge of it and let it play. I looked past him at the ship. My ship, though he did not know that yet, and neither did anyone else on that pier. I was 3 hours early for the change of command. In 3 hours, I would walk that brow in dress blues and take command of that destroyer, and 800 feet of nothing would ever look at me the way Petty Officer Muncie was looking at me now, which was to say, not at all.
It really does.
I could have ended it right there. 2 words, my rank and my name. I have said them in harder rooms than a pier. I watched them line up behind my teeth. I let them stay there. I wanted the pier first. Let me tell you why. Because it is the whole thing. And if I do not tell you now, you will think this is a story about a rude sailor and a comeuppance, and it is not. It is a story about a hungry kid and a chief who held a door and what you owe the next hungry kid when you finally get to hold the door yourself. But first you have to understand what he saw and what he did not. He saw a woman in jeans who did not belong on his pier.
It is an honor to stand before you today
he was
on
not
the deck
entirely
of this
wrong
great
about
warship.
The not belonging.
We
I
are
did not
ready
look like
for
a
the mission
captain.
ahead.
I have never looked like a captain. I came into this Navy looking like exactly what I was, which was a broke 17-year-old from a town you have driven through without stopping, and no amount of rank has ever fully sanded that off me. And I have stopped wanting it to. What he did not see was the 26 years in between. He did not see the garment bag against the bollard and what was in it. Service dress blue, 3 gold stripes on each sleeve, a surface warfare pin, a rack of ribbons that each stand for a year I did not think I would get through. He did not see any of that because it was zipped up in a bag, and because he had already decided, and once a man decides what you are, he stops updating. That is not a problem with his eyes. It is a problem with the decision. So I stood on the pier and I let him not see me, and I watched my crew. I want to be honest about the 2 words because they were right there, and you should know how close I came. Rank and name, that is all it would have taken. 2 words, and Petty Officer Muncie's whole morning would have inverted on the spot. I have said those 2 words in harder places than a pier. In a flag officer's stateroom, over a radio while things were on fire. They are not hard for me to say, and a piece of me, an old piece, the 17-year-old piece, wanted very badly to say them and watch his face fall, because she had been waved off a lot of piers by a lot of Muncies, and she had a running tab. I have learned not to let her settle the tab. She is not wrong to be angry. She is just a bad person to hand the power to. The angry 17-year-old inside you should always get a vote and never get the wheel. So I kept the 2 words behind my teeth, and I waited, and I watched. You can learn a ship in an hour on the pier if you know how to look. I know how to look. I watched the work party. It was a fuel and stores evolution, hoses and pallets, the unglamorous blood of a ship. I watched who worked and who supervised and who hid. I watched Muncie run it, and I will give him this. He ran it hard. He was not lazy, he was not stupid. He was quick and he was competent, and he was mean, in the specific way that quick, competent young men get mean when they have decided that being hard on people is the same thing as being good at the job. It is not, but you cannot tell them that. They have to learn it, usually the way I was about to let him learn it. And I watched a young sailor at the edge of the party, a seaman apprentice, faded boots, doing the ugliest job on the pier, the one nobody wants, coiling wet line and stacking it clean and doing it right again when nobody checked. Name tape said done. Every time Muncie's voice went up, Dunn flinched, a small flinch, a flinch that tried not to be a flinch. I knew that flinch. I used to own it. I watched Dunn for a while. Nobody else did. That was the point. The sailor coiled the wet line, laid it in a clean Flemish on the pier, stood, checked it, and went back for the next one. No shortcuts, no showing off, just the ugly job, done right, in the exact spot where nobody was going to check. There is a whole navy inside that. The one that runs, the engineers nobody thanks, the deck seamen who chip and paint the same rail for the 4th time, the cooks up at 3 a.m, the navy that gets no ribbons and holds the whole thing together anyway. I have spent 26 years learning that the loud sailors will always find themselves, and the quiet ones you have to go looking for, and the quiet ones are almost always the good ones. So I looked. I looked at the whole evolution, the way you look at a ship you are about to be responsible for. I watched who worked and who supervised and who found a reason to be somewhere else. I watched a first-class check a fitting twice. I watched a seaman sneak a look at a phone and put it away fast. I read the pier the way you read a page. Here is what the pier told me. This was a competent crew with a hard edge on it. The work got done, and it got done well, and it got done under a lot of yelling that did not need to be there. That is a leadership fingerprint. When the joy lives quiet in the back and the caution lives loud in the front, somebody up the chain is confused being feared with being good. I would have work to do. I filed that away too. I made a note of seaman apprentice done. You always make a note of the one doing the ugly job right when no one is watching. That sailor is the whole Navy. That sailor almost never gets thanked for it. Over the years, I have made it a kind of private hobby, finding those sailors and putting them a little higher than the loud ones. The loud ones find themselves. It is the duns you have to go looking for. Muncie came back around. You still here? He seemed almost offended by it. You want to be useful. Grab that hose. Otherwise, gone. This is not a jobs program. Not a jobs program. That one I want to sit with because it is the exact center of the whole thing, and I need you to understand why it did not make me angry the way you might expect. It made me something else. It made me remember. Let me take you back. 2000. A recruiter's office in a strip mall. A 17-year-old girl with a garbage bag of clothes in the trunk of a car that was not hers. They asked me why I wanted to serve. I told them the truth, because I was too tired and too hungry to have learned to lie about it yet. I said I wanted to eat every day. I said I wanted to sleep somewhere warm and dry that nobody could put me out of. I said I wanted a check that did not bounce, so I could send some of it home to a little brother who did not have anybody else sending anything. Let me tell you about that year. So the word paycheck means what it should when you hear the rest of this. We lost the apartment when I was 16. There is no dramatic story in it. The rent went up and the hours went down, and 1 month, the math simply stopped working, the way it stops working for a lot of people who are not on the news for it. We stayed with a cousin for a while, then a car for a while. My mother worked. She was not a bad woman. She was a tired woman who had run out of margin, and when you run out of margin, every small thing becomes a large thing, and there is no such thing as a small emergency. I had a little brother. He was 11. he is the reason for all of it. I could handle being hungry myself. I found I could not handle him being hungry. There is a particular kind of resolve that arrives when you watch a child you love go without and understand that no one is coming. It is not a warm feeling. It is a cold, clear one. It does not go away. I still have it. It is probably half of what made me a decent officer. So when a recruiter's office had the lights on and a man behind the desk who talked to me like I was a person, I did not hear a calling. I heard a way out. A check on the 1st and the 15th. A rack that was mine. Food I did not have to count. And enough left over to send home so an 11-year-old could eat. I was not brave. I did not want to see the world. I did not have a flag in my heart. I was hungry. That was the whole recruiting pitch that worked on me. 3 meals and a rack and a check. The recruiter wrote it down without blinking. He had heard it before. Half the Navy walks in that door hungry. Nobody says it out loud at the ceremonies.
I feel the same
true,
way.
And it is not shameful. And it took me a long time to learn the second part. Because plenty of people were happy to teach me the first part. Shameful.
I love you
I heard
too.
in those early years, in 100 small ways, that a girl who came in for the money was a lesser kind of sailor. That the ones who came for the calling were the real ones, and the ones who came for the check were just filling a billet. I heard it from officers, and I heard it from peers, and once, memorably, I heard it from a chaplain, which I did not expect. I started to believe it. And then, in 2003, I met a man named Cross. Master Chief Petty Officer Emmett Cross. He was the senior enlisted man in my division, and he was the most squared-away human being I had ever stood next to. And one afternoon, he caught me apologizing for myself.
It is an honor to stand before you today on the deck of this great warship.
I remember
we
that
are
I was
ready
doing
for
it
the
in
mission
that particular
ahead.
way that you do, when you have decided you are a lesser kind of person and you are trying to get ahead of everyone else deciding it first. Cross stopped me. Why did you join Hartwell? He asked me. I almost lied. I had learned to lie about it by then, but something about the way he asked made me tell the truth. The paycheck, Master Chief, and the meals, I was broke. I waited for the little flicker of contempt. I had learned to watch for it. It did not come. The paycheck is a fine reason to walk in the door, Cross said. It is a lousy reason to stay. Nobody stays for the money. The money is not good enough to stay for, so do not walk out yet. Give it a year. See if something better takes hold. It usually does, if you let it. He looked at me. You are not a paycheck, Hartwell. You are a sailor who came in the door hungry. That is most of us. Now go be more than the door you came in through. That was it. That was the whole speech. It took him about 30 seconds, and it cost him nothing, and it rerouted my entire life. I want you to notice what he did not do. He did not tell me the paycheck was shameful. He did not tell me to find a nobler reason and lie about it at ceremonies. He did not pretend I was something I was not. He took the true thing, the hungry thing, and he did not flinch at it, and then he pointed past it. Give it a year. See what takes hold. Be more than the door you came in through. He also did the thing that the best chiefs do, which is that he watched me after. He did not deliver a speech and walk away and forget me. He gave me the hard jobs, the ones that build you, and he checked my work, and he corrected me in private and praised me in front of people, which is the exact opposite of how most people do it, and the exact right way. He put me up for things I did not think I was ready for. When I doubted, he did not coddle me, and he did not crush me. He held the door, and he made me walk through it myself. Cross had come up hungry, too. I learned that later. He never made a speech about it. He just recognized his own kind, the way we always do, the way that seaman apprentice Dunn on the pier would probably recognize me if we ever traded the true stories. And he decided to do for me what somebody had once done for him. That is how it moves, down the line, hand to hand. It is the only thing in this whole institution that actually lasts. Something better took hold. It always does, if a chief bothers to hold the door open long enough for it to. Cross held the door. He held it for a year and then 2, and by the time I stopped being hungry, I had stopped counting the reasons I stayed, because they had quietly changed from the check to the people, the way they do, the way nobody tells you they will. My brother ate. That is the first thing the paycheck bought. He ate every day for years. And he finished school, and he is a grown man now, with a family and a job, and no memory of being hungry, which was the entire point, and which is the best money I have ever spent. And somewhere in there, the reasons changed on me, quietly, the way Cross said they would. I stopped counting the days to payday. I started counting the days of a deployment, which is a different kind of counting. I found I was good at the work, not born to it. Good at it the way you get good at anything, by doing it 10,000 times and caring about the 10,000 first. I qualified. I stood watches. I learned a ship the way you learn a language, until you dream in it. And one day, I realized I had not thought about the check in months because I was staying for the 18-year-olds who now flinched the way I used to flinch, and I wanted to be for them what Cross had been for me. That is when they told me to put in for a commission. Cross told me. He filled out half the paperwork himself and put it on my rack and told me to stop arguing. I got commissioned in 2006, enlisted to officer, a Mustang, ensign at 24, standing in a uniform I could not believe they let me wear. Lieutenant, department head, executive officer, commander, 26 years, from a garbage bag of clothes to the brow of a ship I was about to command. And the whole way up, every few years, somebody found out how I started. And a certain kind of person always did the same small thing with it. A little tightening around the eyes, a little recalculation. Oh, one of those, in for the money. And I watched myself get quietly filed, again and again, as a lesser kind of officer by people who had never been hungry a day in their lives and mistook that for virtue. I stopped letting it land. Mostly. Cross had inoculated me, but it never fully stops. It was not fully stopped that morning on the pier when a petty officer, half my age, said the oldest word in my file and laughed, and I found the 17-year-old was still in there and still flinched, just a little, on the inside, where no one could see. I will give you one example, so you know it is real, and not a thing I am inventing to make a point. I was a lieutenant, a wardroom, at sea, late. A group of us, junior officers, telling the stories you tell. Somebody asked why everyone had joined. One officer had wanted to fly since he was 6. One had a father and a grandfather who had worn the uniform. Nice stories. My turn came and I told the truth, because by then I had a lieutenant's stripes and I thought the truth was safe. I said I joined because I was broke and hungry and needed the check. The table went a little quiet, and one of them, a man from a family that had never once wondered where dinner was coming from, said, not even unkindly, just lightly, the way you say a thing you have never had to think about, well, at least you are honest about it. Some people actually serve for a reason. Some people actually serve for a reason. I did not say anything. I had learned by then not to. But I carried that sentence for years, the way you carry the small, cruel ones, the ones that were not even meant to be cruel, which are somehow the worst. And when Petty Officer Muncie said his own version of it on the pier, some of us actually served. The two sentences rang against each other across 15 years, and I understood that I was not going to teach either of those men anything by matching their contempt. I was only going to teach it by outlasting it, and by being in the end exactly the kind of officer that a hungry sailor could look at and think, there is a door, and it is open, and someone like me walked through it. And it all started with a paycheck. He was not wrong about that. Petty Officer Muncie, waving me off his pier, telling me the Navy was not a jobs program, was standing on the exact truth of my beginning and using it as a weapon, and he did not know it, and the only thing I felt was a strange, tired tenderness, because I had been him too. Not the cruelty, but the certainty, the absolute confidence that you can look at a person and know them. I had owned that once. Most of us had. We just do not usually get caught the way he was about to get caught. So I did not grab his hose. I did not clear his brow. I stood on the pier and I let the morning build. The work party ran on. The sun came up over the water and put a hard silver line on everything. On the quarterdeck of the ship, up on the brow, I could see the officer of the deck standing the watch. A young officer, lieutenant junior grade from the collar. She had a good, alert bearing. She kept checking the pier and the time. She was watching for something. I watched her stand her watch. It tells you a lot how a young officer stands a watch.
I feel
the same way. She was not slouching
way.
Against the rail. She was not on her phone. She was squared away.
Really
and she was paying attention, and she was clearly a little nervous, which was correct because it was the morning her new captain reported aboard, and she had the deck. She checked the pier. She checked the time. She squared a logbook that did not need squaring. She was a good officer, having a normal amount of nerves about a normal thing. And I liked her for it, because the ones who are not nervous on a morning like that are usually the ones you have to worry about. She was watching for me. Not me, the woman on the pier. Me, the incoming commanding officer, expected within the hour, whose arrival the ship would render on the topside speakers the moment I was confirmed on the brow. Lieutenant Junior Grade Breck, though I did not know her name yet, was standing the quarterdeck watch with one eye on the clock.
It is an honor to stand before you today on the deck of this great warship.
60 feet away,
we are ready for the mission ahead.
And there was one more person about to enter the picture. A senior chief. She was crossing the pier from the direction of the ship, moving with that particular unhurried certainty that senior chiefs have, the walk of a person who has never once needed to run to be obeyed. Senior Chief Petty Officer Yolanda Reese. She was running herd on the whole waterfront evolution from a little distance, the way the good ones do, present without hovering. and as she came, she got a clear look at the little scene by the bollard. The petty officer waving off a calm woman in civilian clothes, the woman not leaving, the woman not reacting. I watched Senior Chief Reese look at me the way you look at a word you almost recognize. She slowed. She did not stop, but she slowed, and her eyes came back to me a second time, and I watched her start to do the math that Muncie had not bothered to do. Why is that woman so calm? Why is she not scared of my petty officer? Why does she stand like that? Muncie, oblivious, decided to perform for his sailors. "Look," he said, loud, spreading his hands, playing to the party. "I do not know how many times. The Navy is not welfare. You do not get to hang around the pier because you like the boats. Go collect your benefits somewhere that is not my brow." A couple of sailors laughed. Seaman Dunn did not laugh. Dunn looked at the deck. I noticed that. I want to say that plainly, because it matters later. The sailor who had the least power on that pier was the only one who was ashamed of what was happening on it. That tells you something about the sailor. It also tells you something about shame, which is that it tends to sit heaviest on the people who have done the least to deserve it. Dunn had felt the edge of that same contempt. I would have bet my command on it, and so Dunn could not laugh at it landing on someone else. The ones who have been the target never enjoy the target being someone else. Only the ones who have never been the target find it funny. Muncie was warming up now. He had an audience. A little authority and an audience is a dangerous combination in a young man who has not yet been humbled. "I mean it," he said, spreading his hands, grinning at his sailors. "Every week somebody wanders down here thinking the Navy is a jobs program. It is not. We are busy. Some of us have standards. So unless you are here to actually contribute something, the exit is that way." He pointed down the pier, away from the ship, away from my ship. He was, without knowing it, pointing the incoming commanding officer off her own waterfront for the entertainment of a work party 3 hours before she took command. And Senior Chief Reese stopped slowing and started coming, direct now, because she had heard that, and whatever she had figured out about me, she had also just watched her own petty officer say something ugly to a civilian on a public pier, and that was a problem that belonged to her. Here is where the whole thing could have gone the ugly way. I want you to feel how close it was. I had 2 words, my rank and my name. I could have said them right into Muncie's grinning face in front of every sailor on that pier and watched the blood leave him. I could have made the whole work party snap to attention and left him standing alone in the middle of it, exposed. A specimen. I could have taken his morning, I could have taken his month. I have watched officers do exactly that to sailors and call it maintaining standards. It is not standards, it is appetite. It is a person with power feeding on a person without it and dressing the meal up as discipline. I have been the meal. I have never once been made better by it. It only ever made me smaller for a while and made the officer feel large for an afternoon. I was not hungry for that. There is a test I use, and I will give it to you because it has never once failed me. When you have power over a person who has wronged you and you are about to act, stop and ask one question. Am I about to do this because it will make them better, or because it will make me feel large? If the honest answer is the second one, you put the power down. Every time. It does not matter how much they deserve it. What they deserve is not the point. What you become is the point. I have watched good officers turn into small men, one justified cruelty at a time. Each one earned, each one deserved, and at the end of it, they were still small men, and the deservings did not add up to anything but that. I did not want to be a small woman with 3 gold stripes. There are enough of those. The stripes just make them harder to stop. So I made a decision in the 2 or 3 seconds I had, and it is the most important thing in this story. More important than the speakers, more important than the look on Muncie's face. I decided I would not break him. I decided I would let the truth arrive on its own, at its own speed, and land where it belonged, which was quietly through his own chief and his own conscience, and not in a public execution on a pier. Because a chief once decided not to sneer at a hungry kid, and that decision built me. And the only honest way to pay a thing like that back is forward. Senior Chief Reese reached us. "Stand by, Muncie," she said. 2 words, flat, and Muncie shut his mouth, because that is what a second class does when a senior chief says, "Stand by." Then she turned to me, and her voice changed, went careful. "Ma'am, can I help you?" She said ma'am the way you say a question you already know the answer to. I looked at her. I liked her already. You can read a whole ship in how the senior enlisted stand, and Reese was standing like a woman who loved her sailors and would walk into the water for them, and would also quietly and permanently correct any one of them who had earned it. You can let your petty officer finish his thought, Senior Chief, I said. I would like to hear the rest. Reese's eyes moved over me one more time, the calm, the bearing, the garment bag against the bollard, and I watched her get most of the way to the answer. And that was when the speakers spoke. Up on the ship, the topside speakers crackled. The 1MC, the general announcing circuit that carries a ship's voice out over the water so the whole crew and the whole pier can hear it at once. There was the small electric pop of the circuit keying. Then the boatswain's call, that high silver whistle that has meant attention on the deck for 300 years. And then the words, carried out across the water, naming the arriving commanding officer coming aboard. I have heard the 1MC 10,000 times. Reveille, taps, sweepers, now flight quarters. The words that structure a life at sea. I have never once heard it the way I heard it that morning, standing on the pier in sneakers, being told to leave, while the ship I was about to command announced me to the water. They said my name across the water. I'm not going to write it here the way the speakers said it, because you already know it, and because the whole point of that morning was that Petty Officer Muncie did not know it until the water told him. But the speakers said it, the rank and the name and the ship, the formal arrival of the commanding officer, and the sound rolled down the pier. And every head on the deck came up and turned.
I know.
They turned toward the woman by the bollard.
I feel the same way.
The woman Muncie had just told to go collect her benefits.
It really does.
Senior Chief Reese's hand closed on Muncie's forearm. Want to rephrase that, Petty Officer, she said. It was not a question. Muncie still did not have it. That is the thing about a mind that has decided. It argues with the first evidence. He was still holding the shape of his joke, and he tried to finish it, half to Reese and half to me. Rephrase what, he said. She is just here for the... And then the name off the speakers caught up with him. I watched it happen. I watched him hear the rank and the name rolling across the water, and I watched his eyes go to the garment bag against the bollard, and then to the way Reese was holding his arm, and then to my face, my actual face.
It is an honor to stand before you today on the deck of this great warship. We are ready for the mission ahead.
Just here for the... He never finished it. He never has, as far as I know. Nobody snapped to attention. I want to be clear about that. The pier did not crash to a formation and freeze. There was no salute in the middle of everything. It was quieter than that, and it was worse for him, and it was better for the story. The work party simply went still and turned, and the loudest thing on the entire waterfront, in the middle of all those turned faces, was one petty officer standing with his mouth open around a word he was not going to get to say. I looked past him for a second, at the pier, at the sailors who had laughed. Not one of them was laughing now. They had found somewhere else to put their eyes. At Seaman Dunn, who was not looking away, who was looking straight at me with an expression I recognized, because I had worn it, the expression of a young sailor watching the world briefly rearrange itself to say that the hungry ones are not less. And up on the quarterdeck, Lieutenant Junior Grade Breck stood very straight, having just piped her captain aboard and watched the whole thing from the brow, filing it away, the way a good junior officer files away the first real thing she ever learns about her commanding officer. They had all just learned the same thing about me, in the same breath, without my saying a word. That is the only kind of lesson that sticks. The kind you did not know you were being taught. The color left him the way it leaves a man who has just realized he stepped on something in the dark. I have thought a lot about that specific second, the second a certainty breaks. It is a violent thing to watch, even when it is happening to someone who earned it, because a person's certainty about the world is load-bearing. It is holding things up, and when it goes, everything it was holding comes down at once, and you can see it come down in the face. I saw a whole morning come down in Muncie's face. Every laugh, every wave of the hand, every time he had pointed me toward the exit, it all came down on him at once, in front of his sailors, on the pier, and there was nothing I could do to stop it, and nothing I would have done if I could. Because some things a man has to feel all the way to the bottom before they teach him anything. The sailors on the pier were dead silent now. The work party had stopped. Every one of them had done the same math Muncie had just done and gotten the same answer. And now they were all looking at their petty officer the way you look at a man standing in the road while the truck arrives. "Ma'am," he said finally. It came out like a cough. "Ma'am, I..." "Finish the evolution, petty officer," I said, level, not loud. "Your work party is watching you. Give them something better to watch than this." He turned back to the hoses. His hands were not steady, but he turned back and he ran the rest of the evolution, and the fact that everyone on that pier watched him do it was the only punishment I laid on him, and it was enough. It was in fact exactly the right amount. Senior Chief Reese stayed a moment. "Ma'am," she said, "low, just for the two of us. How long were you standing here?" "Since about 7:15, Senior Chief," I said. She looked at me. Something passed over her face. Not quite a smile. Chiefs do not smile at officers on piers. But something. "You let him run his mouth." "I wanted the pier first," I said. "You cannot see a ship if it knows you are looking." Reese was quiet for a second. Then she said, "That is either the most patient thing I ever heard or the most stubborn." "They are usually the same thing, Senior Chief," I said. And that right there was the moment I hired her, in my head, as the first ally of my command, before I had signed a single piece of paper. You do not get many gifts like that in the first hour. A shared thing, earned before any order is given. I did not waste it. But there was Muncie to handle, and how Reese handled him told me the rest of what I needed to know about my new Senior Chief. She did not raise her voice. "I want you to understand that, because it is the whole art of it." She walked her petty officer 3 steps away from his work party to the edge of the pier, and she put her back to the sailors so they could not read his face, and she talked to him low. I could not hear the words. I did not need to. I have given that talk. I have received that talk. It is the worst dressing down in the entire Navy, and it never once raises its voice, because a chief who has to yell has already lost, and Reese had not lost anything in 25 years. I watched Muncie's shoulders come down, not in relief, in weight. She was not screaming at him. She was disappointed in him, out loud, in a level voice, and disappointment from a chief you respect is heavier than any amount of screaming from one you do not. Screaming you can wait out, disappointment you have to carry. When she was done, she left him standing there for a second, alone with it, which was also on purpose. She came back to me. "Ma'am," she said, "that is my petty officer. That was mine to see coming, and I did not. I will handle it." "I know you will, Senior Chief," I said. "That is why I am going to give him to you and not to the paperwork." Reese looked at me a beat longer than she needed to. I could see her deciding something about her new captain, weighing it, the way chiefs weigh officers, because chiefs have survived a lot of officers, and they learn fast which ones to protect and which ones to manage. "Some captains would want him written up," she said. "For the optics. New command, make an example, set the tone." "I am setting the tone, Senior Chief," I said. "This is the tone. We do not feed on our own sailors for optics. He made a bad call on a pier. He did not hit anyone. He did not steal anything. He was arrogant and he was wrong, and he is 27. If we started ending careers over arrogant and wrong at 27, there would be no admirals." She almost smiled again. "Grow him. If he does not grow, that is a different conversation and we will have it. But give him the chance first. Somebody gave me one." A minute later, Muncie came over. He had to. He was gray and he was steady, and he stood in front of me at a rigid attention, and he did the hard thing, which is to apologize without excuses. "Ma'am, I was out of line. All of it. I do not have an excuse. I saw a person in civilian clothes, and I decided I knew everything about her, and I was wrong, and I was cruel, and there is no version of it that is okay. Even if you had been exactly who I thought, I am sorry." That last part surprised me. Even if you had been exactly who I thought? He had gotten there himself in the 90 seconds since the speakers, to the actual lesson, faster than most people get there in a career. That told me there was something in him worth growing. "Noted petty officer," I said. "Stand your watch. We will talk in 2 weeks. Go." I need to tell you about the cost now, because if I only tell you about the look on Muncie's face, I am lying to you about what that morning was. The speakers said my name, and I gained the ship, and I lost something in the same breath.
I know.
I lost the pier.
I feel the same way.
The second that crew knew who I was, they started performing.
It
was
really
not
does.
their fault. It is what crews do. Every sailor on that waterfront got suddenly carefully squared away.
I love you too.
Backs a little straighter, movements a little sharper, eyes finding me and sliding off me and finding me again. The easy, honest, unguarded ship I had come 3 hours early to see was gone. Permanently, the instant the 1MC keyed. I would never see this crew the way I had just seen it. Nobody sees their own crew unguarded, the captain least of all. And there was the other cost, the older one. He had said the word out loud. Paycheck. In front of a crew I now had to lead. And it was true. That is the part that stung, and I am going to be honest with you about it. Because the whole point of this channel
is that we are honest to stand before you today on the deck of this great warship.
I did
we
come
are
in
ready
for the money.
For the mission
I
ahead.
came in hungry for a check and a rack and 3 meals, exactly like he said. And now a whole work party had heard a version of my beginning, shouted across a pier and laughed at. Being right about my beginning did not give Petty Officer Muncie the right to be cruel about it, but it did drag my oldest shame back out into the daylight, in front of the people I was about to command. I stood on the pier for a moment with that. Here's the thing, nobody warns you about the reveal. Everybody imagines it as a clean triumph. The music swells, the villain is undone, you walk away taller. It is not like that. It has a cost, and the cost is real, and it comes due immediately. The cost is that the thing you were hiding is now in the daylight. Muncie did not just guess wrong about my rank, he said out loud in front of a work party, the truest and most private fact about how I began. In for the paycheck. And being seen means all of it is seen. The medal and the Mustang stripes, yes, but also the garbage bag of clothes and the hungry kid and the reason I really walked in the door. You do not get to choose which parts of you the daylight reaches. When it comes for the whole thing. And the other cost, the one I already told you about, is that I lost the ship. The unguarded one. The one I flew in early and stood on a cold pier to see. Gone in the length of one announcement. I would command this crew for the better part of 2 years, and I would never again see them the way I saw them in that hour, when they did not know I was watching. A captain is the loneliest person on any ship for exactly this reason. Everyone performs for you, always, because they must. And the performance is not a lie, it is just a wall, and you spend your whole command trying to see over a wall that you yourself built by the simple fact of your rank. And then I decided, the thing I have decided 100 times and have to keep deciding, because it does not stay decided on its own. I decided the hungry beginning is not a thing to hide. It is a thing to hand the next hungry kid. Cross handed it to me. I was going to hand it down the line until I could not lift my arm anymore. I picked up the garment bag. I went aboard. On my way to the brow, I passed the work party, back at it now, quieter than before. I passed seaman apprentice Dunn, still coiling line, still doing the ugly job right. I stopped. Seaman Dunn, I said. The sailor came to a nervous kind of attention. Ma'am, that is a clean Flemish, I said, and nodded at the coiled line. You have laid every one of those the same way all morning when nobody was checking. I was checking. Carry on. I do not know that anyone had said a kind word to that sailor in a while. I know what the face did. It is a small thing to notice a sailor. It costs nothing. It is also some days the whole job. Cross taught me that too. I changed in the wardroom into my service dress blue, the 3 gold stripes, the ribbons, the surface warfare pin, and I came back out, and I walked the brow properly the way you are supposed to, and I stopped at the top, and I turned aft, and I saluted the ensign, the flag at the stern, and then I saluted the officer of the deck, and I asked permission to come aboard, and Lieutenant Junior Grade Breck rendered the honors, and I stepped onto the deck of my ship. Petty Officer Muncie was on the quarterdeck watch. Of course he was. The watch bill does not know when a man's morning has fallen apart. He was standing his watch, pale, correct, staring straight ahead, waiting to see what I was going to do to him now that I had the deck under my feet and the stripes on my sleeve and every reason in the world to make an example of him. I stopped in front of him. Petty Officer Muncie, I said. Ma'am, he said. He braced for it. You run a tight work party, I said. I watched you for an hour. You are quick and you are competent and your sailors move when you talk. That is worth something. Do not throw it away. I let that sit for a second. You also decided who I was in about 4 seconds. On nothing. On a jacket and a garment bag. You did not have one single fact about me, and you spent me anyway. And here is what I need you to actually hear, because it is the part that matters, not the part where you happen to be wrong about my rank. He waited. It would have been just as ugly if I really had been what you thought, I said. If I had been a broke woman who wandered onto your pier because she had nowhere warmer to be, everything you said this morning would have been just as wrong. There is a seaman apprentice on your work party. Done. Doing the ugliest job on the pier, doing it right, and flinching every time you raise your voice. That sailor came in hungry. I would put money on it, same as I did, same as half this ship. That sailor is not worth 1 ounce less than you for it. You do not get to measure a person by by whether they are useful to you in the 4 seconds you looked at them. That is not a Navy value. That is not any kind of value. "Aye, ma'am," he said. Quiet now. Real. "Fix that," I said, "and you will be a chief someday. I mean that. Senior Chief Reese did not stop you this morning because you are hopeless. She stopped you because you are worth stopping. Notice done. Find out what that sailor wants out of this Navy and help get it. Report to me through your chief in 2 weeks on what you did. That is your first order from your captain." "Aye, aye, ma'am," he said, and I went to take my ship. That afternoon, on the fantail, under a clean sky with the ensign snapping and the crewing ranks, I took command. The orders were read. The words that have not changed in 200 years were said. And I stood in front of a crew that had watched a petty officer tell me to leave that pier at 7 in the morning, and I looked out at all of them, and I knew, with a certainty I have rarely had about anything, that not one sailor on that ship was ever going to wonder whether their captain thought she was better than a kid who came in hungry. There is no speech I could have given from that podium that would have told them who I was as clearly as that morning on the pier already had. I kept my remarks short. New captains always talk too long. I have never once heard a crew complain that the change of command was too brief. I told them I was proud to join them. I told them the ship looked squared away and that I knew what that cost, because I had held the other end of a mop and a chipping hammer and a fuel hose in my time. I saw a few faces shift at that. Word of the pier had gone through the ship by noon, the way word does. They knew. I did not mention the morning. I did not have to. It was standing in the front row, in a service dress uniform, in the person of a petty officer named Muncie, who had watched me choose not to end him and would spend the rest of his career trying to figure out why. I will tell you why. Because a Master Chief chose not to end a hungry 17-year-old once, and everything I have because of that choice, and the only currency that debt takes is paid forward. Muncie did not owe me anything after that morning. He owed the next one. That is how it works. That is how it has always worked. Hand to hand, down the line, the door held open one more time. That evening, after the guests had gone and the folding chairs were struck and the fantail was just a fantail again, I walked my ship alone for the first time as her captain. Down through the spaces, the mess decks, the engineering plant warm and loud and alive, the berthing where my sailors slept in stacks of 3. I put my hand on the cold steel of a bulkhead, and I stood there for a minute in the hum of it. I thought about a garbage bag of clothes in the trunk of a car that was not mine. I thought about a boy who was hungry and is not anymore. I thought about a recruiter who did not laugh.
It is an honor to stand before you today on the deck of this great warship.
With any luck,
we are ready for the mission ahead.
Doors. I thought about how far it is from that car to this bulkhead, and how the whole distance was covered one held door at a time, none of them mine, all of them handed to me by someone who did not have to. You do not get to a place like this alone. Anyone who tells you they did is lying or forgot, and forgetting is its own kind of lie. I have never once forgotten. That is the only thing I am sure I have done right. That night I called Master Chief Cross. He is retired now, 70 next year. He answered on the 3rd ring, the way he answers everything, like he has all the time in the world, and you are the most interesting thing in it. "Master Chief," I said, "a petty officer called me a paycheck today, told me the Navy was not a jobs program, and I should go collect my benefits." There was a pause. I could hear him settle back into a chair. "And what did you do?" he said. I thought about it, about the 2 words I did not say, about the pier I let run, about the sailor named Dunn, and the petty officer named Muncie, and the door. "I held the door, Master Chief," I said. The line was quiet for a moment. "Good," Cross said. "That is the whole job." We talked a while longer, about his garden, about my brother, who Cross has never met and asks about every time, because he knows the whole story and he knows what the check was for. Before he let me go, he said one more thing. "Hartwell," he said, "that petty officer, do not carry it for him. Give it to his chief and let it go. You cannot hold a grudge and hold a command. There is not enough of you for both." He was right. He usually is. 2 weeks later, Petty Officer Muncie reported to me through Senior Chief Reese, as ordered. He came into my cabin squared away and steady, a different bearing than the man on the pier. He told me he had sat down with Seaman Apprentice Dunn. He told me Dunn wanted to strike for a rate, wanted to be a machinist's mate, wanted to work on engines, and had been quietly trying to put together the request for months with nobody helping. He told me he, Muncie, had walked the paperwork through himself. and stood behind Dunn for the qualifications and that Dunn was on track now. He told me all of it flat, the way you report a fact, not the way you ask for credit. "Why did you do all of that yourself, petty officer?" I said. "You could have handed it to a first class." "I know, ma'am," he said. "That was kind of the point." I looked at him a long moment. "You are going to be a good chief, Muncie," I said. "You are already becoming one. A chief is just a petty officer who figured out that the job is people. You figured it out 2 weeks faster than most. Do not slow down now." "Aye, ma'am," he said. And I saw, under the discipline, that it had landed. All of it, the whole morning, and turned into something. That is the only kind of change that lasts. It cannot be ordered. It can only be chosen. He had chosen it. I have thought about that morning a great deal since, about how neatly the truth crossed the water and set everything right, about the sound of the one MC saying my name and 200 faces turning toward the woman by the bollard. And I want to leave you with the thing I actually learned, which is not the thing you might expect. If someone ever decides, in 4 seconds, on nothing, that you are only in it for the money, for the benefits, for the check, for whatever small, hungry reason first put you in the door, I want to tell you something 26 years in this uniform taught me, and it is this: there is no shame in walking in the door hungry. None. The shame does not belong to you. It never did. The shame belongs to the person who thinks that hunger makes you less, who looks at a person who started with nothing and decides that the nothing is the whole story. It is never the whole story. It is just the door. What matters is what takes hold once you are inside, and what takes hold has nothing to do with why you came. You do not have to defend your beginning to anyone. You do not owe a single person the explanation of why you first walked in. Let them decide what they will about you in their 4 careless seconds. Then let the truth cross the water on its own. It is slower than we want it to be. It does not always come with a boatswain's whistle and a name on the speakers, but it comes. And I want to say something to the ones who did not have a cross, because I know you are out there. I know that not every hungry kid gets a master chief who holds the door. Some of you walked in hungry and nobody ever pointed past the paycheck, and you had to figure out on your own that you were more than the door you came in through. And you did figure it out, and it was harder without a hand on your shoulder. And I am sorry it was harder, and I am proud of you. And I need you to hear that the fact that no one held the door for you is exactly why you are the one who should hold it for the next person. You know the cost of the closed door better than anyone. Do not pass that cost along. Break the line right there with you. Be the cross you did not get. It is the finest thing a person can do with an old wound, which is to turn it into a door for somebody else. That is what I try to do now. Every hungry kid who comes onto my ship, I watch for. The flinch gives them away. I find them and I do for them what was done for me, and most days it is the only part of this job I am completely sure is worth doing. The rest of it, the ships and the schedules and the readiness reports, I do it well and I am proud of it, but that is not why I stayed. I stayed for the door. I stayed to hold it. And when it reaches you, when the pier turns and the person who guessed wrong goes gray and quiet, I want you to do the hardest thing, which is the whole point. Be gentle with the one who guessed wrong, not because he earned it, because somewhere behind all that noise is a scared kid who has decided he has to push somebody down to prove he belongs up. You know exactly what that feels like. You have felt the flinch, so do not hand it down. Teach him instead. Do not break him. Hold the door. That is what a Master Chief taught a hungry 17-year-old on a Tuesday afternoon a lifetime ago. And it is the only thing I have ever really known how to do since. Hold the door. That is the whole job.